Hey there, welcome to episode 127 of the Quaggling Sand audio program. I am your host, as always, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at 8:07 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in the Greater Vegas area on this Wednesday, April 15th, 2026. Nothing else going on April 15th this year, so might as well record a podcast. Actually, we do record sometime around Wednesdays for this particular audio program. We try to publish new episodes in the morning every Wednesday. So we're right on schedule. Would I have liked to record this last night? Yes. Am I for some reason having these weird sinus headaches that are really making me feel dizzy almost? Yes. I get sinus headaches occasionally, so I'm not overly concerned about this. Usually I have a thing, saline, not a neti pot, but sort of similar. So that's probably what I will do after. But so I'm sure everything's fine, but I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Today's title, Unresponsive Nodes. Nodes are things in a network, nodes and edges, the network graph. Unresponsive nodes, we don't need those. We'll get into that more in a moment. If you're not familiar with the Quaggling Sand audio program, well, let me tell you, it is a walk down memory lane. It is some recollection. It is some tales. It is some stories. Every week I try to come up with something that's kind of interesting. I do have a lot of stories. You start to realize that when you have to discuss one or come up with one, to kind of pull some things together every week, 127 episodes worth. So good times. It's been interesting for me. I hope it's been interesting for those who are listening. If today is your first time listening, I will tell you that quaggling sand is a term I coined when I was about, 5 years old, 4 years old or something. You probably refer to this as pins and needles. It's the return of circulation to, let's say like a hand or a foot. If you've been sitting funny, if you've blocked the circulation, and then when the circulation returns, that numb feeling starts to, it's quaggling sand. In this case, the quaggling sand is the return of circulation to my memory stores, usually somewhere under my hat. So yeah, that's the story, quaggling sand. You can use it. It's a technical term. Pins and needles is for everybody else, but quaggling sand. Think about it. It makes sense. 127 episodes. That's crazy. Fix one little thing here. Hopefully wherever you found this audio program, which could be in any number of places by now, who knows. We do publish officially on Apple, Amazon, Spotify. There's a whole YouTube channel, which is something I should make more use of. And there are RSS feeds. It appears on the Spotify for Creators profile page. It also gets published in the normal Spotify catalog, and it probably shows up in other places too. So we'll get to that in a moment. So on that note, hopefully where we found this, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, and then the two usual links. I don't know if I really want or need to include like reference materials for my stories. I could describe a network graph, but if you're really curious, you can look up network, like a network graph. Usually the casual use of the term graph means values plotted on a grid of some sort, bar graph, line graph, candlestick graph, whatever, area graph, whatever it is, pie chart. Oh, pie chart. Sometimes they call it a pie graph. Pie chart is more correct. So when you're representing data on some axes, 2D, 3D, whatever, you're actually making a chart. A graph is a representation of, it doesn't have to be visualized necessarily, but it represents connections between nodes on the graph. Those connections are called edges. And a directed graph has a particular path, like a start and an end. Acyclic and cyclic graphs and all this. So it's basically the connections between things and how they're represented. So if I have an unresponsive node or more than one node, what do I do with that in my network graph? So the summary of today's episode: a practice more commonly known as ghosting to most. For the nerds among us, nodes in our network might respond, they might not. So what do we do about the latter? The unresponsive nodes. The links, as usual. Quaggling Sand has a homepage, QUOGGLINGSAND, Quaggling Sand, just like it sounds, .com. I really need to do some HTML templating, which will yield nicer outcomes and or displays. And I want to apply those. I've been talking about this forever, and every single thing has gotten in the way that I'm trying to accomplish. But I really need to do that for a variety of things, including my own websites. So quagglingsand.com right today when I'm speaking. Kind of ugly, not really ideally functional, but I did want all of my audio programs to have an official web presence. So there it is, quagglingsand.com. Don't forget. Profile page, linking everything. I created this profile in March of 2023. No, 2021. 2021. 5 years old. 5 years and 1 month. March 2021 to now, 5 years, 1 month. Approximately half a month. Buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo. You will find links to all of my audio programs, including this one. Home pages, Spotify profile, Spotify for creators, profile pages, YouTube channels, the works. One of these days, I'm going to do a quick survey and see which of my audio programs are still or can be found and still can be found in various places. So maybe I'll try to, as part of my website beautification at long last, I will include more links to where to find the programs. And there's an RSS feed, so you can subscribe directly. The RSS feed is presently hosted by Spotify, so make what you will of that. Don't forget, you will find the Buy Me an Update audio program published first on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo/posts. That's where the name came from, Buy Me an Update. It's 5 minutes or less every Monday morning. Quick recap of the previous week's audio program topics and any news and announcements. It's published first at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo/posts, and then it is published about 2 hours later in all of the usual places. And that's linked on the profile page there as well. Coffee Solo, you can check that out. That's a link there as well. And everything else is there. You don't have to spend any money at Buy Me a Coffee. You don't have to literally buy me a coffee. You can if you want. There's also some affiliate links for things that I actually use, but you don't have to do anything. So no pressure. Let's get on with the show. Our networks. We all have family, friends, acquaintances, classmates, colleagues, and people we only sort of know, connected and maybe interconnected in our personal network, which over the years can become large, but maybe not entirely reliable. People are like this. Gosh darn it. I have described this before, probably a lot of episodes ago. My tendency to remember things, details, people, circumstances, and so on. How we met. Somehow that one sticks around often. Well, this is becoming less deep a memory pool that I have to swim in. As I have mentioned, I think apathy is playing a role in throttling just how much I care to store away. So nowadays, I met you at some point. Doesn't really matter. That sounds cynical and glib, but that's part of the topic of today, is that people kind of disappear. So let it go. But I have some long-term memories stored away about various people in my network, which really should be pruned away. Some of that stuff I shouldn't be carrying that around in my head. I have more important things to remember. So that is something I have been pursuing conscientiously. Today we can look back at a few of those nodes that get pruned away because they are unresponsive. And I'm not going to actually mention names, but sort of more circumstances and how over the many, many years, this has just become more and more apparent and more commonplace. And then I'll have a theory at the end about why I think this is happening. It's not just happening to me. I know I've talked to some people before they disappear. I asked them if people tend to disappear, and they're like, oh, that happens everywhere. Yeah, but definitely in Vegas, but also everywhere. Yes. I think that most nodes I am describing today are first degree connections. So most of the people, a friend of a friend, okay, I don't really expect much from that. But if we've known each other for a while, and let me point out now, and I have mentioned this before at some point. If you and I met in person 20 years ago, wherever, in a work situation probably, and I talked to you, or we interacted several times 20 years ago, and then 19 years ago was the last time I heard from you, and then you email me today and you say, hey, I'm going to be in Vegas next month. We do not know each other for 20 years. We knew each other 19 years ago, but just because we met 20 years ago does not mean we've known each other for 20 years. That's something that most people don't really account for that. So most people will say, oh, we've known each other for 20 years. We knew each other in college. Well, but if we never speak again until you are planning your trip here, well, I haven't known you the whole time. Maybe you're an awful person. Maybe I'm an awful person. So I think there's this comfort, I think, that people have from reconnecting with old friends, high school reunions, family reunions. And I think it's sort of a false sense of security. Something to think about. So today we can look back at some of these nodes, and I'm not going to mention names. Second degree, not as important. If I know people directly, of course, they are worthy of this scrutiny. I might have a personal connection to a company. That's more likely to be a second order connection, but that's really become a thing in the LinkedIn era that we are in. It's less of a concern in general. So second order connections are sort of out there. They may be temporary or situational, or they may come and go. So it's not quite the same. They don't consume resources if there's a reasonable way to describe their relevance here. Those first three connections, first degree connections. If you've ever used LinkedIn, again, this reference is familiar. These are the ones that we're pondering today. So remember my typical layout when I write my episodes, section 3 bullet items. So we're not delving back into when I met other babies in the what do you call that place? What do they call that place? Where anyway, on my birthday, the other kids around that probably had a similar birthday. We're not going all the way back there. I don't remember those people. But a long, long time ago, I've actually talked about the friends I made in my neighborhood back in New Jersey, Milford. I was going to preschool, kindergarten, and first grade before we moved. Strangely, I have more recall of those characters than I do have of the friends I made when we first moved to Glendale, Arizona. Though I do recall 2 conversations. So I don't recall their name. I think I recall their names. I think it was Kim and Emily, as I'll probably say again. But for the most part, I don't remember much about when I first started school in the new city. But I recall these 2 conversations, very brief, with my new classmates. I mean, we were 6. One regarding the fact that I had already finished the curriculum for first grade in this school that I was attending. So cheers to New Jersey schools, I suppose. They were moving. Glendale was a little bit slower. That would be a problem later. And another regarding the cold temperature. It was actually the air conditioner coming on. It was May in Phoenix, the Phoenix area anyway, which I found weird at the time. Like, this isn't cold. I used to walk on top of snow because it was so cold in lovely New Milford. It made us stronger. The cold temperature, yeah, which I found weird. Having just moved from the place with snow in the winter, the weather in Glendale bordering Phoenix, so we're right in the middle of the state. The weather in May was hot to me, so certainly not cold. Other than that, I don't remember. The teacher was Mrs. Conger. She got married in May, not June. School, but as an aside, school in New Jersey would end in June. I think it was June 22nd, which was the day after my birthday, of course. So in Phoenix, they would start a little bit earlier, and they would end in May. So you're not still in school when it's 100 whatever degrees out. So it was a little bit more of an accommodation for the weather. But for whatever reason, Miss Nunez got married, Mrs. Conger. Could have waited until school was out of session, but so she was gone for like a week or something. and then she was back. So that's the only thing I remember, because I remember thinking it was strange, but not overly strange. I don't remember anything else. And normally I have a pretty good memory for this stuff. So that's kind of weird to me, but not really apropos for today. As I made my way through the Horizon Elementary School, I made various friends, several along the walking path to school, which I've talked about before. The school was just under half a mile away. In my various classes, of course, including when I made a detour during the 3rd grade into a 7th grade science class. So I had some upper class, quote unquote, upper class friends. They did cheat on me at least once. Cheat off me, I should say. Cheat from my test, I think it was. All the way until I finished the 6th grade at that school. Then I moved to Royal Palm Junior High School in a different school district in Phoenix rather than Glendale. Mostly because of that first finding about my already being ahead of where the Glendale district was in their curriculum immediately. Like, first day I'm in the new school. Oh, I've already finished all this. What have you guys been doing? Shivering with your air conditioning? This new district and new school moved along more quickly, the Royal Palm. So that was better for me. I met many people my own age at junior high school, at least at first. And then because I once again jumped ahead a little bit in math, I met some high school students in the geometry class I was taking with 2 fellow 8th graders, Mike and Kevin, at Washington High School down the street. Since we had run out of maths at Royal Palm, they were fine, but to be honest, I did not stay in touch with anyone there at the high school. My 2 colleagues, Mike and Kevin, disappeared after Royal Palm and after Sunny Slope High School, respectively. Mike did not go to Sunny Slope High School. Kevin did. So I still knew him. Most of the students from Royal Palm would go on to Sunny Slope. So I did remain in touch with most of them. The teachers, not so much. In fact, for better or worse, I did not put much effort into maintaining connections with teachers, which is probably a net negative. The teachers are worth staying in touch with. I think I've mentioned before a few teachers that I've tracked them down over the years, and then I discovered that they are no longer with us. Debbie Reeker, Zeke Ashley, a few others. Too bad. I'm not being glib. It is too bad. They were important people along the way. The best days of our lives. There's a whole song, and many misconceived or ill-conceived notions. High school is supposed to be that time in all of our lives where we make real connections, and it would be easy to map these backwards, where young students in early elementary school years move through their timelines together into high school and maybe beyond. So when you're in high school and you're looking about, I've known this person for 20 years. Not really. I had the 1st grade change of geography I mentioned. So I moved from New Jersey to Glendale, Arizona, New Milford, New Jersey. Then the 7th grade change of school district. So I went from Horizon in 6th grade to Royal Palm Junior High in 7th. So maintaining some of these connections would require some conscientiousness, since this was back in the days of handwritten letters and in-person meetups, maybe a phone call. Remember speaking to people on the telephone? Is that still a thing? I don't even know. But young people were mostly bound to their school and extracurricular activities and engagements to build and maintain friendships, which that's usually where they were. I did also, but with those breaks in continuity, so I was kind of starting over a couple of times. That means I don't have any friends that I kept in touch with at all. I mentioned my what is it? What is the Forrest Gump thing? My first best friend, or my first best friend? Lori, in my case. I think I was 16. No, it was when we were in, I think I was 25. We visited the old house in New Milford, and the neighbors were still there, Marty and Elsie. And so Elsie said, "Oh, Lori is so-and-so. I think she just got married. Here's her phone number." I tried calling, left a message. I heard back from her a year later or something. We never actually spoke. So for the most part, the younger years of elementary, New Jersey and in Glendale, never really stayed in touch with those people. So yeah, handwritten notes and whatnot, impossible. But yeah, I mean, who else am I meeting? I'm going to school and I'm doing whatever else, other school related activities. I'm not traveling around the world, meeting people, not yet. So yeah, it is what it is. High school was where I met some of my long-term friends, of course. This is the way it's supposed to be, or so they say. I will say that I'm connected. I guess this is the word. I am connected to a couple of teachers, English teacher, calculus teacher. Are there any others? ROTC instructor. And if I heard from a classmate plus or minus a couple of graduating years today, I might remember them. So somebody from the year or two ahead of me or behind me. Other than that, yeah, well, iffy. I have a yearbook somewhere, so I could look people up. I have the whole nine, right? So the whole high school experience. This was, though, where I first reached that point of realization that not all of this is practical. I hesitate to label these relationships as real or legitimate versus false, maybe. But I think the romantic notion that we will remain friends forever, I think that's part of the words of a song or a different song. Friends forever, something. So, yeah, right. Yeah. Where am I? Forever or close to it. It's sort of ridiculous, right? Like, you're not going to stay friends forever. That's why they have those reunions to convince you that, no, see, you're all still friends. It's been 10 years, been 25 years. Come on. Don't you remember? This was the 25-year reunion. I think it was. I think I should have said there was. They are not this. There was the 25-year reunion, I think it was, where, geez, who typed this stuff? Typed there instead of where. Where I was suddenly receiving a lot of Facebook outreach from various people. There was a little clique of women, young women, Jennifer, Kim, Christina, a couple of others. So I started hearing from them. Hey, Dan, how you doing? Hey, we're doing our reunion. Do you want to come? Should we put you down as maybe a +1 possibility? You know, all that silliness. So the 25-year, I think it was a 25-year reunion. Maybe it was 20, but I think it was 25. Started getting a lot of Facebook outreach because Facebook, not email. I'll touch on that later. These were people I had not heard from for those 25 years. They suddenly started asking me what I was up to, very excited about planning the big reunion event and all this. This should go without saying, given the topic today. Once that reunion took place, which I did not attend, I did not hear from any of those people again. So go figure. My thinking at the time, and is still true, people I've kept in touch with, I would be interested in continuing that. But if I haven't talked to you in 25 years, there's probably a reason. In modernity, it is far too easy to talk to people if you want to, if you really want to. So during that high school time frame, I had worked at McDonald's, of course, Fuddruckers, which I guess has recently got shut down completely once and for all, maybe until they bring it back again. And a couple of other places, and if memory serves, I've been in contact with two of my former McDonald's coworkers, one of whom lives or lived here in Vegas somewhere. We never actually, I think we had one or two messages, probably on Facebook. Yeah, 2 messages via Facebook. That was the extent of that engagement. And then the other person still lives in Phoenix, I think. So I suppose Facebook contributed to some artificial connection from the past. I had connected with a few high school classmates on the LinkedIn platform in its early years. I signed up for LinkedIn shortly after it launched in the summer of 2003. It was actually May of 2003. And I signed up in August, so I've been there the whole time. Those connections to high school people on LinkedIn have faded, of course. There was a time period when I would spend the time to prune away those unresponsive notes. So if I hadn't heard from someone from high school on LinkedIn, it's been years since I used Facebook. I'm like, you know what? I'm probably not going to hear from the person I had English class with. If I haven't heard from you yet, probably not going to. So I trimmed away people on LinkedIn just to kind of get it down to people who actually interact. Because what good is it having someone in your network if they are unresponsive? So the value proposition there is a little bit is dubious. Then there's the college friends. High school has that reputation, friends forever and all that. But if you do attend college or like a post-high school education tract, This is closer to being the best years with college, or if you live with people, or if you have some great, if you go into the military, it's even more so, more closely knit, more commonality, more of a life experience, life changing experience sometimes. So that you're on a path through life and with a cadre of people who are motivated sort of like you are, and who probably share some of those experiences that required tenacity and less sleep than one might normally have relied upon. So yeah, you've been through it together. And like I said, the military is more of that. Probably, sometimes a lot more. I think it is safe to say that real life experiences, not high school experiences, are substantially more formative. We cement our relationships with these real life experiences, and we are closer to commencement. That's why they call it that when you graduate, or the entry into what some now refer to as adulting, beginning your journey through a career path and living life and so on with your higher education in hand or in mind. So we are not reaching back as far to the chaos of high school and the associated mindsets. We can look to our college experiences as a closer knit group of colleagues. I actually had occasions, I should say, to work with some college classmates out in the working world in Silicon Valley, pretty much, which would probably lead one to believe that we would have had even more reason to remain in contact, especially if we remain geographically proximal. But even if we don't, it turns out the tendency to stay in touch is about the same with college classmates, whether we worked together or not. And I always find it interesting because I went to Harvey Mudd College, very nerdy. Everybody's got everybody has a computer. Everybody's using email. We had email addresses at the school at one point. We still might. I don't even know. So alumni email. So at some point I was available at hmc.edu somehow, some address, construction. Yeah, those people we were not in the email all the time generation. We didn't have cell phones or laptops. There were no real practical cell phones that a college student would be affording at that time. And laptops could be had, but they were very expensive. So I had my clipboard, I had my Pentel rolling writer to take notes on my engineering notepad on my clipboard, and we were roughing it. I mean, we were using computers, but it was a different scene. I actually had an occasion, like I said, though, to work with these people. So even if we were exposed to cell phones and had more reliable email connections and eventually portable devices that we could send and receive email or other messaging from, doesn't mean that my generation of college classmates was going to take advantage of those things. I'll get into my theory of that later. I don't think I think there's a cultural component from the time that we came from, but I think there's also the nature of the world as it is. So I graduated from college in the early 90s, and LinkedIn was launched in May of 2003, as I mentioned. I joined LinkedIn in August of 2003, which I also mentioned. And there was also Facebook in there somewhere. Honestly, I don't know or care when Facebook started to do it. It was somewhere in there. I had a MySpace account also, and there were some other competing platforms, Friendster. There was one that started with a Q. I don't remember what that was called. So yeah, there were these attempts to connect people so that you could share photos of what you were having for lunch. And Facebook, for better or worse, probably worse, sort of won the alumni connection race for Harvey Mudd. So there was literally an alumni forum of some sort, like an online forum. And there was this platform that someone who had graduated from our school was working on. So that software platform was a contender, but then everybody said, oh, Facebook is a little bit more polished. It has a little bit more ease of use and so on. We were dumb. I voted for Facebook, so I'm dumb. Facebook was a huge waste of time, as we are hopefully realizing this many decades later. It's obviously been injurious. It's been a bad thing for some people who have used it. I find it to be somewhat detestable. It has morphed into it's purely a revenue generating machine for the platform owners, the stockholders. These two tools should have made it easier, though, to remain in contact. LinkedIn, Facebook. For the college population anyway, my peers, my classmates, especially for job referrals and references and whatnot. I mean, that's what LinkedIn has definitely evolved into, or did evolve through many. Now it's a different garbage platform. However, we went in a counterintuitive direction for what I have a theory about. So hang on still. Then there are work colleagues. When I graduated from college, it was very tricky to find a job since the Bush 41 recession was winding down and Silicon Valley was barely ramping up to what it would be. That would change quickly about a year or so later. So figure like 95, although things were improving once I moved there. Coincidence? No. An embarrassment of riches when it came to the job hunt would unfold. And when I did get my first job, then my second and so on, there was a gap in age between me and the next youngest people I was working with, about 4 years or so. I think it was 26. I was 22, 26, yeah. Which made this new batch of people entering the job market in Silicon Valley stand out a little bit. Like the older young people would say, yeah, it was a recession. I think everybody went to grad school or they didn't move to Silicon Valley, surely. So kind of interesting. But that made like there was a gap of people flowing into Silicon Valley to be a part of whatever was going on there. But it really wasn't even going on yet. So it's probably fortuitous that there was that 4-year gap because the things were just coming together. So kind of interesting. And again, fortuitous. So that huge age gap, it was kind of interesting. So that I think that actually made it interesting to kind of hang out with that 26, 27-year-old gang because they didn't have anybody younger than them for a while. And suddenly now they're like the seniors and we're the freshmen, right? So there was that. Obviously, nobody got thrown in a locker or a trash can or anything. But I think there was that ease of connection. And then, you're in adult world now. So networking inside your workplace and so on, different, much easier. There's sort of a curiosity, I suppose. I think, no, it wasn't a dozen people or so. I don't want you to get the sense that like we were all standing there, like we were rushing for our fraternities or something. It was a huge number of people entering the job market in 93 in Silicon Valley and everywhere else. So it was, and the economy was sort of turning around. So it was kind of an interesting time. But it was something that was pointed out to me contemporaneously. Like, oh yeah, it's been a while since we had, recent graduates because of the recession. So yeah, that's how that worked. And I can still picture with my stupid memory, I can still picture one of several. But I remember the first person I heard that from, that observation. His name is Jeff. I remember his last name, but we don't need to put him out on Front Street. But he said that, oh, it's been 4 years because of the recession. So I haven't encountered young people just out of college in a while. So it was kind of interesting. With that in mind, every job I worked at led to meeting more people with largely positive interactions. Silicon Valley was loads of smart people. And with so many jobs available, knowing people and reaching out to see about having a resume handed to a hiring manager, like, hey, can you put this on their chair for me? Or receiving a resume to do the same, which I always did. Networking back then was very different for job referrals and so on. So this was all fairly common. Staying in touch was a part of the way through the Silicon Valley .com boom time, to be sure. So yeah, I knew him, I knew her at the last place I worked 20 minutes ago. So that was, I'm going to say it was invaluable to be able to connect and stay connected with the people from the jobs and from the other interactions. Certainly from college for the few that were around Silicon Valley. So with that in mind, every job I worked at led to meeting more people. So that was important. I repeated that sentence, but that is important. I cannot oversell that. Even though a lot of those connections were transactional, they were still important. So there is a time and a place to have utility friends, I guess, utility network connections. Once LinkedIn did launch, and I was headed back to Silicon Valley for my second tour. If you have not listened to all of my various retellings of the different facets of my experience, I moved away from Silicon Valley, sick of it, in 2001, August, perfect timing. And then I moved back to Silicon Valley in 2005 So 2003, I was in Phoenix. I was hating life because the job market was not good. And I had no more network. Everybody I knew from Silicon Valley was probably still in or departing Silicon Valley. They weren't coming to Phoenix. So Phoenix was not right where I left it, so to speak. So it was not very fun. So LinkedIn coming out in 2003 was useful to start reconnecting with some people for whatever value that would lead to. I spent time adding people from college, job. I think the discovery mechanism was like you could email someone. Do you know their email address? Email them an invite. So they were totally farming email addresses to perform some of their marketing magic at the time. So I spent time adding people from college, from previous jobs, people I had come across in my travels, even people in Phoenix, and more people were joining the platform. It was kind of an explosive thing. And it kind of filled in that gap, right? A business-oriented social network so that you could connect with those colleagues and friends and so on. And back then, they didn't really have all the social media features. So it was really about having a profile with previous employment. And then you could find, oh, there are 25 people from this company. And then, by a month or two later, be like, oh, there's 100 people from this company. So that, oh, you might know this person. So they were building up that recommendation engine. Here are people you might know. So the utility was pretty clear in a time when it's who you know was, that was absolutely true. So I was reconnecting directly, and then you would see they were putting these second and third order, Kevin Bacon, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, which was a take on the 6 degrees of separation theory, that everybody's 6 degrees away from each other. So it was actually useful. You'd say, this is a friend of a friend. Oh, this is somebody who also worked at the company, and we knew the same person. So you could, all that. So very useful to reconnect for me, because I had taken my little sojourn to Phoenix for looking back, I guess it was not as bad as it seemed at the time. But at the time, I was like, I have nobody I can reach out to with that resume. Can anyone put this on a chair somewhere, please? The discovery was useful, though. So, somewhat ironically, LinkedIn does not help people to remain in contact. Who knew? LinkedIn is horrible now. It's garbage. I really don't like it. And I talk about that all the time. The Vegas factor. Now, this is kind of interesting to me. I moved from Silicon Valley to Vegas in the summer of 2013. House fire. If you haven't heard that story, I won't tell it today. And so many people in Silicon Valley and several people otherwise became aware over time that I was now living in Las Vegas. And so I would now and then receive messages along the lines of, hey, I'm going to be in Vegas next month, with a very vague notion of exactly when that actually was. Like, do you want to give me a time or a date or anything? And what were the expectations? What might those be? Should I clear my schedule and just wait near the phone, so to speak? Okay, I'll just wait. I blocked out the whole month because I'm not sure when you're coming here. So you just call me and let you know. And to be honest, a lot of times people would say that, and then I would not hear from them. This happened as recently as like 2 weeks ago. Got an email. Oh, hey, we're going to be in town. We're leaving today. We're flying into Vegas. We'll be there later. It was an email, so we didn't have a conversation. And so I didn't respond, and I'll get into that later today in this episode. So I didn't respond because I was like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, it's sort of the other end of that spectrum. Hey, I'm going to come next month. That's a 30-day window. And then the other side of that coin is, we'll be there today. Like, I don't really have time to spend with you today. I'm doing other things. By the way, that's a Vegas problem. It's like if you live near Disneyland. Hey, we're going or Disney World. We're going to Disney World or Disneyland or Vegas, and there's a pause. Like, right? And you're like, well, you're coming to Vegas because you're vacation, or you're coming to gamble or party or whatever you're doing. But I'm home, so I'm not taking off the week like you are. There was, when I used to travel a lot for Intel, this little Vegas sort of insight, I suppose. When I was flying a lot for Intel, couple of times this would happen. You're boarding the leg of travel that will land in Vegas, and there would be when you go to the TSA area, which I haven't been to in a while, so yay, pardon me. The got a little burp going on. So I'd go to show, okay, here's my boarding pass, and the person would invariably look if it was going to Vegas. They'd smile, oh, going to Vegas. Like, yeah, I'm going home. That's where I live. And their smile would drop, and they're like, oh, okay. Like, that's not as impressive. So Vegas for people visiting is fun. The fun economy is a real thing here. But if you live here, I'm not waiting. I'm not on call for people to let me know their schedule so that I can clear out mine. So that's been something that's been slightly frustrating, but that's how humans are. Yeah, should I clear my schedule? It took a while, but I eventually learned that such notices of imminent visit, we're going to be there sometime in the future. These are to be ignored for anyone but maybe my parents, because here's the bottom line. You're either coming to Vegas to see me, like, hey, I'm coming to Vegas, let's meet for lunch on Tuesday, or I have some things I want to talk to you about, or hey, do you still live in Vegas? Can I come out and we'll have a meeting of some sort? That's rare. That's sort of parent style. Hey, we're coming up there. We're obviously not coming up there to go shopping or to gamble. We're, because I live here, they're going to come and visit. Not as common anymore. But if you are not coming to see me, and then you would believe that, oh, but why don't you clear out your schedule? Because we're going to be there. Like, oh, I haven't heard from you in 25 years, but yeah, let me go ahead and cancel my plans. Do I sound cynical? So a variation on this theme, which has become even more common in this post-pandemic world, is the communication that takes a very long pause and then something along the lines of, hey, I'm coming to Vegas. So the same sort of thing, right? Notification usually coupled with I know it's been a while, as the preamble. I'm touching on my theory here. We'll get to it more. But this form of communication is essentially a claim of ownership over the conversation by one side of the conversation, with that conversation only progressing at the convenience, maybe the whim of that one side. The value of the connection declines quickly when there is that asymmetry. So if I have someone who, this happened probably a year or two ago, a friend from high school, actually, one of the rare people with whom I had kept in some sort of, proactive communication with. And, there were emails back and forth and whatnot. I still haven't seen this person in person since the 30 years. So hadn't heard from forever. And then I get an email. I had emailed and then silence. So I kind of wrote the person off. Hey, I'm going to be in Vegas. I know I haven't written back, but now I'm going to be there next week, blah, blah, blah. Still vague, right? You're only giving me, I'm going to be there sometime soon. And you go ahead and block out your schedule. Anyway, I didn't respond because I said, so you at your own convenience are deciding to respond to me, not because you wanted to communicate with me weeks or months ago or a year or whatever it is. There have been people who I didn't, that I email or try to contact them years ago and I don't hear from them. And then suddenly, oh yeah, we're passing through Vegas. Thought I'd reach out and see what you're up to. I know it's been forever. Well, it's going to be a little bit longer. Yeah. So, what you're doing is you're saying, it wasn't important to me to respond to you, except that now that I'm going to be in the same part of the country as you, or near you on the planet, now I will spend that time. And I think that's not a good idea. I think that's not healthy. The culture of Vegas, which includes some transient characters who might simply up and disappear, happens all the time, which includes, up and disappear. It's not about keeping in touch. This culture is not about keeping in touch. For local people, you might meet someone and never talk to them. Hey, what happened to you? I moved. Yeah, but I just talked to you yesterday. Yeah, it turns out I moved. Maybe they did, maybe they did. Who knows? Ghosting is very real here. I often say it is the preferred method of communication in Greater Vegas. And oftentimes people, oh, it's like that everywhere. But I said, yes, but it is definitely like that here. LinkedIn is a farce, of course, with most people in Greater Vegas accepting an invitation to connect. Yay, thank you, I guess. I'm not worthy. but then never responding or interacting in any way. LinkedIn is a false sense of connection. It's not real, possibly in general, and most definitely in the Greater Vegas area. So I've come to really dislike it quite a bit. 2 sections remain. So here's my theory. The 3 bullet item version. So I don't know how old you are, but our parents, right, people from 1 or 2 generations back, would stay in touch by meeting in person, speaking on the phone when there were phones available eventually. They've been around for a while. Writing letters and probably attending a reunion. And somewhere in there were fax machines and so on. Whether a family reunion, a school reunion, whatever it was, I knew people, and I think people in my family would send like newsletters. So they'd get people to give them news updates or pictures, and they would create an actual newsletter. They would create multiple copies, send it out in the mail. Like, you actually have to be invested in that and take part, be proactive. People used to do that. As communication tools became more capable and ubiquitous, right? Everybody has a cell phone at this point, but more and more people were having cell phones back in the day. But people had phones, more people had email in the 90s. So then suddenly you're like, oh, I can just email you. I don't have to email me some pictures, and we'll put together a newsletter, and I'll just email it back to people. So you could cut the turnaround time on the production and sending out these family newsletters to days. But then if you got bored doing it, or I'm too busy scrolling through my TikTok, then I don't need to send that newsletter, right? It becomes easier and easier to stay in touch at a distance with email, interactive chat in the old days. Remember ICQ or AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, or IRC, Internet Relay Chat, etc. By the way, IRC is still around. I have an IRC account. I mean, it's kind of decentralized, so you can have multiple easily. Social network sites, Facebook being the obvious winner over time, give or take. So, who hasn't used Facebook at this point? I haven't used it in years, so don't bother. Messaging platforms like WhatsApp, which of course is now owned by Meta, which owns Facebook. And social media platforms like YouTube and TikTok, which are also network and communication platforms, right? They have the ability to send messages to people and so on. Not to mention the pandemic explosion of Zoom and video communications in general. So now everybody's able to create video and have interviews or face-to-face, FaceTime, video conversations, one-on-one or one-to-many. So you could have little meetups. Now you don't need to do the family newsletter. You can do a family Zoom call if you really wanted to. Did you do that? So that is a lot. So now we have all these things. I sometimes tell people I have more email addresses than you can imagine, but they all come to me. So if you have an email address for me, it probably still works. The email address I use for work, for my company, my LLC, I registered in March of 1996. So I've had that email address for a couple of years. And there was a concept called paradox of choice. Sorry for that whistle there. I gotta work on the dampening that. Hopefully I don't have plosives. I do have a pop filter. And the microphone I'm using also has an internal pop filter, but I still get the sort of the S's. Where was I? So yeah, paradox of choice. You have too many choices, too many options. It becomes more difficult to make a selection. Like, I have TikTok and YouTube and Instagram videos to watch tonight. Or should I get to those emails? Email from Dan Hugo. Yeah, I'm gonna scroll through YouTube and TikTok this evening instead. 3 flavors of ice cream is easy, for example. 31 flavors of ice cream, this will require more thought. Maybe I'll just go get a piece of cake. Cake or pie? Oh no. Choices. Platforms in the process of impoopification. I try to keep it clean. You can find Cory Doctorow's book with the actual, I'm not saying it's offensive, but you know what I'm talking about. Impoopification, just change a couple of letters. You can't miss it though. It's got the appropriate emoji on the cover. It's the process of a company like Facebook becoming, hey, we're going to connect you and your family, and we're not going to throw ads at you and stuff, all the way to, we are all about the money, and we know you can't leave, because this is how I stay in touch with my family, because they weren't going to, yeah, okay. So attention is everything on these platforms. That's how they stay rich and do so much harm. to everyone. And so users of those platforms are hit with a barrage of things they're probably interested in. They've pretty much figured you out at some point. If my friends and colleagues are sticking with Facebook messaging or Instagram messaging or whatever, they may not actually treat messages as a priority on those platforms over much other yummy content to scroll through. So many choices, so many choices. Maybe this distraction coupled with content to scroll through, maybe this distraction coupled with good old, I didn't skip the line there. It's coupled with good old fashioned procrastination. Like, oh, there's all this other stuff I can look at. I don't have to think. I don't have to compose words of my own to respond with. I'll do that later. And then it gets a nice layer of frustration on top because there's just so much coming at us, and it's tuned to generate an emotional response to keep us engaged and all this other machination. So that doom scrolling is easier than replying and replaces that proaction, the part where you actually do something, think for yourself and write words and maintain connections with other human beings. Too much of a pain. I just want to watch these random videos. So yeah, all that stuff replaces proaction substantially. Not entirely though, because, well, right, it doesn't replace it entirely. At some point, there may be some reminder, an aha moment, where one side of a conversation needs something. Hey, I haven't responded to your email from 4 years ago, but I need a favor. They take action at their convenience and they reach out or reply and mention their impending Vegas trip, for example. Those are all true stories, unfortunately. And there are several. There are more to the point where I'm like, I don't even bother. Or a request for a referral of a job or an introduction or whatever the case may be. There's always a reason to reply. And I'm not kidding about the delay. 4 years? That's been longer. The desire to remain in contact is replaced by a personal need, which drives the action to reply to that message, sitting for months or even years. True story, like I said. Maybe this is that distraction, procrastination, frustration triangle running the show. But I think over time, there is a value shift, maybe with more complicated world around us, which we all experience every day, even more so in the last decade or so. But anyone can say that at any time. If you think about the last 100 years, right? 120 years. Couple of world wars. Maybe the third one is starting now. Depression, like economic depression, global economic depression, the invention of flying. Like a lot of stuff has happened in the last 125 years. So the priority of maintaining connection with other people, especially in the face of technology that makes the world smaller, as they say. I don't have to hand write a letter. I don't actually have to read that. Now I'll just have AI summarize everything and send it over, and then your AI can read it, and we never have to communicate again. Yay. But that aha moment, I need something. Personal needs. Yes. Maybe this is that distraction triangle. I think it is, but I really think it's just so much of a fire hose is pointing at us. And there are so many choices, the embarrassment of riches, the paradox of choice. Yeah. But the value shift, it's become less important to stay in touch because we can just assume, didn't you see my Facebook post? Didn't you see my Instagram? Yeah. Now that means you have to be signed up for everything, and you have to be following the right people. That's my main. No, I have too many gripes about LinkedIn, but I'm not following you on. We aren't connected on LinkedIn, so I don't know what you're talking about. And you can change LinkedIn to Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or WhatsApp or Signal or Telegram, or the list goes on. You have to have an account on everything. Maybe some collection of life experiences that throw the simple priorities out of whack are having that effect. It's the fire hose. It's all these social media platforms and all the distraction there, all the algorithms tuned to keep your attention off of your family and friends and so on. Who can say? It happens, though, more and more. And I hear brief snippets from others that they are experiencing the same sorts of things. I experience this is all over. It's not just Vegas. And then I stop hearing from them. So who knows? It's kind of a joke, but not really. Final section. This is the pruning the network part, those unresponsive nodes. So unresponsive nodes get pruned. That's the way it is. Why keep someone around if they have essentially disappeared and then pop up again at their convenience, probably when they need something? So I've had too many of those, especially even in the last 2-3 years. Ridiculous. Disappointing. This is merely matching priorities. The other party in each case did it first. So they decided to not respond or to go silent. Hey, so-and-so, this is Dan. This, that, and the other thing. And, I didn't hear from you for a year or two. Oh, but now you're coming to Vegas. So I don't mean to sound, I'm not trying to be like, I'm not walking around yelling at no one. But it is so comically the same exact scenario plays out. So that's why my theory is like, we are all evolving into, if it isn't on the screen in our hand, doesn't matter. And because the screen in our hand is always showing us things that some algorithm is selected to make sure we don't take our eyes off the screen in our hand, there you go. I've dropped so much social network and content consumption from my media diet, and I spend so much more time reading on my phone. I tend to read news or articles on my phone. I listen to audiobooks. I read books, although less often. I do more audiobooks while I'm out walking or going to the gym. But anyway, the fact is, I don't get drawn into video so much. So I think there's something to that, maybe. So yeah, matching prior. So if you're not going to respond to me, I'm not going to respond to you. I'm just setting my interaction level to yours. The other party did it first, and so we lower it down to we could spend that time and energy on people who do interact. So I'm going to set my level for the person I hadn't heard from in years. Well, I'm not going to respond to you for a few years. There's my glib response if I want to respond, like, hey, I'll be in Vegas, and I'll wait until I know they're gone because I'm petty like that. And I'll say, I'll get back to you when I'm in your city, because that's stupid. But it's also, I think it's disrespectful. I think it says you are not important to me. Responding to you, which is so easy, not something I wanted to do until it was on my terms. I think that's unfair. I think that's reduces the value of the interaction to zero, essentially. So normal people used to interact like normal people. I think those are the relations to focus on, not people who, the term used to be fair weather friends, right? I used to be the first one to reach out to a quiet node. So you're getting what that is, right? Node is like the dot on a graph, and the two dots or two circles. If those are two people, the edge, the line between them that's the edge connecting the two nodes. So those are two people who have some sort of a relation. So in my case, the friend network, the first degree connection network, is you are the dot or the circle or whatever in the middle, and all of your first degree connections are dots connected to you in like a circle, and then they have their friends, and you might be connected to some of their friends, or you might not, and you sometimes will interact with their friends because you meet them at events, or hey, I'm bringing my other friend to Vegas when we did you all that kind of silliness. So your personal network has these nodes. That's just the language of that field of study. So if I haven't heard from someone in a while, I used to be that first one. I would reach out, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard from you in forever. They're probably like, oh, I was just watching some YouTube and Instagram and TikTok videos. So especially if I had reached out, recently, hey, I didn't hear back. I emailed you like a month ago and I didn't hear from you. And I'll tell you, this happened one time, 6 years ago or so. And it turns out, because I emailed a friend of mine, birthday, hey, I haven't talked to you in like a year. Happy birthday. Hope everything's going well. Didn't hear back from him a couple weeks. I type his name in, and the autofill for Google said obituary. And I was like, now it turns out it does this a lot. Like that's like an automatic fill in. But at the time, my first response was like, uh-oh. And it was true. He had been killed in a hit and run accident. Not his fault. So sometimes that happens. I hope it doesn't. But those can happen, and that's never, obviously I would rather that not have happened. And it was around his birthday too, which was doubly awful. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so his birthday's in February, by the way, if you're curious. So if I hadn't heard from you, I would try to follow up. Hey, what's going on? Then I started running into those situations where I would hear from people when they needed something. So I was getting basically an 80% disappointment rate, not because of hit and run accidents, but because people just didn't respond until they felt like it. And to be honest, the signs point in the same direction most of the time when it is, these scenarios. They're all pretty much the same. That 80% is essentially all the similar, nearly the same story. The long time silent nodes can reach out. That is sometimes quite nice, right? Hey, I didn't respond to your email. So here's my response, and hope everything's. What are you up to now? It's been a while. And I'm like, wait, you're not coming to Vegas? You don't need me to do a favor? No, I just slipped through the cracks. I'm really sorry. Oh, okay, that I can accept, because probably wasn't critical that I heard from him, but it's nice that they did take the time eventually. Sometimes there's a real story behind that, and so I'm not a monster. We just had a baby, or we had to move and we had a house fire. I've been there. I know that one. So these things happen, but it's the people who are awful that I don't really have time for. And by the way, I'm going to get to this in the next section, the final bullet item of this final section. But yeah, there are people who just, that is the way it is, where they're just like, I'm not going to communicate with you. So unless there's something in it for me, that is Vegas, to be honest. So yeah, the long time silent nodes can reach out, like I said, if something, it's nice, but usually they don't. And I save time either way, because I'm no longer the person that reaches out first. So I think I have a fairly welcoming attitude if someone does decide to, the person I mentioned earlier, where I hadn't heard from my high school friend in San Antonio, I think. So, if I ever come out to Vegas, we can meet up. I haven't seen you in like 20, 25 years or whatever. I'm like, yeah, sure. Then hey, did you see this? Or how's that going? Or I think there was some sort of a completion of something. How did that go? Whatever. So I proactively reached out. Didn't hear back. Now, if that person had, it's been 2 years, I'm really sorry, but I had to move and I did, just like all that. But at some point you're like, why did I bother? I don't really want to spend the time. So it's a question of, like, again, balance. So I don't think this is passive aggressive so much as simply saying asymmetric relationships. That's like the root of, or the beginning of problems, like societal problems, right? We should treat each other the way we want to be treated. I think somebody wrote that down somewhere. Oh, I'm going to respond to your email because you respond to my emails. I'm going to call you on the phone because you call me on the phone, etc., etc. So final point, LinkedIn has been the holdout in my social networking collection. I still use LinkedIn, unfortunately. Haven't given up on the others, even Blue Sky, which is just Twitter by another name from the other direction. Come to think of it, Twitter is just X by another name, or vice versa, maybe, or something. But yeah, those platforms they're just a waste. I use Mastodon quite a bit if I feel like making a quip of something, like making a funny, and I usually don't get responses. Like 80 or 90% of the time, I get nothing. I'm like, I got that out of my system. Like I made a funny haha, or sometimes I'll post stuff because I do want to find it later. Like, I'll just create this note in the form of a Mastodon post, and then I'll come back to it some other time, which I do sometimes, so it's fine. So it's receipts, so for later, for me or for anyone else. Oh yes, Dan did say that a year ago. There it is. If I'm ever president, you'll be pulling up my tweets like, no, probably not. I used to prune away the unresponsive nodes there on LinkedIn, and I do on occasion if it's like egregious, especially if they reached out to me to connect and they're just there to sell me something. I'm usually very abrasive. Like I'll respond, but I'm like, I checked your profile and you don't have the experience you just described. It's only been, that was the most recent one. I have more than 30 years development experience and this and that. And if you need any projects, I'm like, yeah, you show 23 years of experience. Where's the other 7? And then I continue a little bit and then they block me. Like, dude, you reached out to me. So LinkedIn is the actual conversations that I would like to have. I hope to have in person anyway, but like 95% of the time, I will connect with someone here in Greater Vegas, especially superintendent of the Clark County School District, the new CEO of the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, the principals of schools, because I do all this stuff with the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, right? So I'm trying to get students involved with things, and we connect, and they never respond. So like, why? Why did we connect? What good does that do any of us? Totally not worth it. And I think the platform itself is part of the problem, as I've intimated here and today, and as I have pointed out in a few episodes of my various audio programs otherwise. The living business card with a resume history of 2003, when it first launched, it took a turn. It was a totally useful platform in 2003 and for several years later. Again, to be able to reconnect with people. I moved back to Vegas in 2005, and I'm like, oh yeah, remember we used to work at, oh, how's so-and-so doing? Okay, great. So you're rebuilding that network after basically the world stopped in 2001 around September or so. And then putting the world back together and making things happen. All my network is gone. That was back in, you'd have a book of business cards. Remember those days? So rebuilding, making use of the newest technologies, LinkedIn, a lot of emails, mobile devices eventually. No, mobile devices were already around. So just getting all that stuff going to reconnect and keep those connections alive, very useful. But then Microsoft acquired them whenever. Today, and over the years, but certainly today, it is so algorithmic and AI sloppy. For Innovate for Vegas, we have 948 followers, I think it is, of our LinkedIn page. And if I post something that's reasonably important, like I'm hoping people will see it, and it'll have like 20 views, 10 views, like, okay, 948 followers, but nobody cares. And the algorithm is not steering it to people because I'm not posting every single day with the format and all this game that they have. So yeah, the living business card has become algorithmic and algorithmic delivery of AI slop. That the only value, and by the way, most of the posts people make, oh, I went from 10 followers to 1 million, and I created today I didn't post and I felt so bad. And basically the formula is you make the LinkedIn format post, which is 1 sentence paragraphs, double spaced, so it's ridiculous. And then nowadays it's I'm going to go ahead and put a few selfies on here, so it's literally becoming Instagram, it's just garbage. It's not worth it. The only value in making those invite dash accept, right? So I'm going to invite someone to connect. They accept the connection. Okay, so now I know who this person was, and I know if we have any common connections. Okay, that's sort of useful, because that's telling me who in this population are not going to respond in any way to anything that I'm talking about, or like, it's not even for me. Like, hey, we're doing these things and to try to reach out to students in the area to try to cultivate a culture of innovation. There's nothing in it for me. No, don't want to help. Don't even want to respond. I connected on LinkedIn to my council person here in Vegas. I'm in the ward. By the way, this is kind of embarrassing. I used to be in Ward 6. I didn't move. I used to live in Ward 6. And there was redistricting or whatever they did to balance the populations of each ward. And only recently, and so I had been to like Ward 6 gathering events, and the council person was there and went, hey, I'm in your ward. And I recently discovered, I'm not. I'm in Ward 4. Whoopsie. So I connected with my actual city council person, and then nothing. Not a single peep after that. So they got to respond, oh yeah, great. Well, Ward 4, good stuff going on. Then nothing. And then I recently found out additional information that my council person is unopposed in the upcoming election. So even though term limits are reached, term duration is reached, and there's a 2-term, I think it's 2-term limit, I think. So no opposition. So there will be no primary, and there will be not even on the ballot, because there's automatic win. So yay. So that person doesn't have to buy like, oh, you're in my ward and you want me to respond to you? Good luck with that. I know I have a bad attitude. So the living business card part is great. The slop and the apathy and the, we connected. Now what? Now what do you want from me? the only value is having that social network so you know who is doing what and so on. But then those connections are merely the ones that are important, but they're merely unresponsive nodes in my social network, in my network of colleagues and connections. If they're not going to respond, they're probably not worthwhile. So while we complete a lap and go around the loop again, oh, I'm going to add someone to my network. They're never going to talk to me. Not useful. And then again and again and again, these things keep happening. So essentially, the final word, and this is totally spontaneous. I didn't write this out ahead of time. The final word is this. I'm not intending to sound nuts, maybe, but in reality, a lot of the stuff I've attempted to accomplish, or I have accomplished many times, is connect. I'm a super connector, right? Oh, you should talk to so-and-so about the thing that you need. Or, oh, you're looking for a job. Hey, a friend of mine's looking for a job, probably could do what you're needing, etc. Right? So I do. And then again, like I said, there was a time back in the day in Silicon Valley when I got jobs that way. Other people got jobs via me. So being engaged and moving around and talking to people and getting to know who needs what, and actually being responsive and interactive was useful. And it helped my career. It probably helped the career of others. And there was actual tangible value to be found. The post-pandemic, maybe the reliance now on video calls and texting. People very rarely speak on the phone. They'll speak in a video call, but they're not going to pick up the phone. Like, what are you doing calling me? Just send me a text. Several comedians have done that bit. So I assume that there's something there because of that. But for the most part, what I see is that people just don't care. Unless there's something, I mean, this is true in Vegas, and I'm sure it's true elsewhere. But I've really seen this in Vegas where people say, what's in it for me? The equivalent is there going to be free food, right? Hey, do you want to come to this event we're having for local innovation? Is there free food? Well, no, we're a charity and we have no sponsors yet because we need to get participation. So no free food. No, not interested. So what's in it for me is a popular thing here. So the circle completes with that one too. Like, I'm not going to respond to your email because it doesn't matter to me until it does. Oh, I'm going to be in town. I need you to help me locate whatever. I need to check out a couple of venues for a gathering I'm organizing. I need you to help me find a cool restaurant. So a little water bottle there. So yeah, we've become something of a distracted and maybe a little bit selfish society. And that's just what I come across more often than not. I'm trying to accomplish things that are community elevating because over the years, and I don't know if I've really talked about this as much, but over the years, I've come to realize that if you only focus on I've actually talked about chasing stock options, for example. Sometime I can make a lot of money if I go to a company that isn't public yet. I get my incentive stock options. They vest over. So I was very excited by that. And I realized at some point, if I'm only chasing the stock options, I'm missing out on enjoying and learning. And not that hanging out with cool people is actually going to lead anywhere, but, being in an environment that was fun, but also educational, it's still lucrative, right? I was still getting paid, but it wasn't all about the big win. Hey, if the big win happens, great. If I'm able to be rewarded for my efforts and my time spent, wonderful. But if that becomes the goal, it's the undoing. So over the years, I've come to realize that it is that the work you're doing, right? You're trying to accomplish something. And if you look at what you're trying to accomplish, by the way, that's why I started working at Leapfrog, because I figured, I've spent so much time on products just for the sake of building products. These are educational products. So the goal is a smarter youth, right? They still want to make money and they were still going to go public and all that. But the engineering people were like true believers. The two co-founder engineers all the products that they were building were for their kids. So their first best customers were their own children. So they were trying to make products that were for them and also everybody else. So the motivation was a little bit better, a little bit nicer. They were decent people and all that. So, yeah, the value proposition that I'm pursuing is to try, community elevation. Like I said, the culture of innovation in Vegas is profoundly weak. So it's kind of an experiment. It's kind of like, I wonder if this would work to try these things. And I have a few ideas that are my own that also fit into that. So I kind of get a couple of things going at the same time. Should benefit a lot of people if everything works. I get no help from anyone because, well, what's in it for me? Oh, you're doing volunteer stuff? But nobody wants to volunteer their time to make their communities better. That's ridiculous. So I suppose I'm kind of asking for it, but Vegas definitely will deliver it. If you're asked, I would like people to not respond to me in any way. I would like them to disappear. I would like them to blow me off, unless I can deliver something of value to them specifically, and then they may consider it. And Vegas is like, we are all over it. We got you 200%. So it's unfortunate that people that I've known for I don't know people for 25, 30 years. I met them 25, 30 years ago. But the very small number of people whom I've actually known for those years, friends and maybe one or two, family and maybe one or two friends. But those are people who I've known for more than 2 decades. And even that, it's not, the momentum is falling away. And so it comes down to a close family, and everybody else is like, oh, I haven't talked to you since 30 years ago. Yeah, that's because it's important. Anyway, now that I've gotten all that out of my system, I really do not like LinkedIn, and that has to go. So one of my ideas I want to pursue is, I'm not going to say it's a replacement for LinkedIn, but it gets back to first principles. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's all I have to say. This one went very long. I got an hour and 22 minutes. So thanks for listening as always. And I don't expect to hear from you. So take care. Bye-bye.